like to now introduce Elisabeth Mack, who is an RN, and she's a BSN, an LMNOP. I'm kidding. And she's got an MBA as well. She's extremely knowledgeable. She's going to help us really shift the paradigm and bridge that gap between natural healing and allopathic medicine. And I'm going to go ahead and send it over to you, Elisabeth. So go ahead, share your screen.
Okay, can you see me?
I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So, hi, my name's Elisabeth, and hopefully you can all hear me and see my screen. So, I am here to make the clinical case for cannabis and talk about coaching and how each of you can play a part. I invite everybody to always join me in trying to medicalize cannabis. A little bit about me. I have been a nurse for years. 1986 to 96, I spent in hospitals. 1996, I finished my MBA in healthcare administration and ended up then spending my next 20 years in insurance companies between operations and sales. And so my last real job was the regional sales manager for Anthem Blue Cross for the County of San Diego. And what happened was in right at the end of 2014, I crashed my bicycle, went up and over the handlebars, and ended up at my chiropractor's office after I had surgery. And I had a medical massage, and the therapist was using CBD in the oil. And I said, "What is this? It smells funny." And she said, "That's cannabis." I said, "I don't want any cannabis." And little did I know, but she told me that I had an endocannabinoid system and that this oil was going to help decrease my inflammation, help the swelling, and help me recover back to normal faster and ease pain. So I said, okay, sign me up. And next thing you know, I ended up interning with her and her boyfriend, who had a dispensary here in San Diego at that time. But then I went to the library, got every book I could on cannabis medicine, cannabis in any way, read all of them, started to sign up for the journals that were online, and ended up going to conferences and San Diego meetups in 2015 back then. And I said, you know, how do I get involved in this? And in the meantime, I was also healing myself. At the time I crashed my bike, I was on about 10 different medications. And over the period of 2015, I weaned myself off of all of those once I figured out how to use CBD for myself, microdosing THC. And I said, hey, if I can do this for me, I got to do this for other people and to help bridge the gap between that traditional and cannabis medicine. So in 2016, I founded Holistic Caring to see patients one-on-one. Ended up working with a palliative care physician and helping a lot of patients at end of life transition off of opiates and onto cannabinoids and give them better care. Ended up hiring nurses and wrote a training manual for them. And that training manual became a book, and the book became a course. And so here we are today. I am also on the board of the American Cannabis Nurses Association and also LA Normal. So Los Angeles Normal, for those of you that don't know about Normal, I'm going to tell you about them in a minute too. But you know, this is not a minute too soon, because America is in distress. We have at least 1 out of 2 people with a chronic condition. And when we think about chronic pain, PTSD, anxiety, depression, insomnia, autoimmune and neurological conditions, traditional medicine doesn't have much of an answer for those folks, right? We're getting sicker and sicker, and we have a sick care system rather than a healthcare system. And spending the last 35 years in it, I know what I'm talking about. We're spending at least $3.5 trillion on healthcare expenditures in America, yet we still rank 42nd in outcomes on health metrics, as well as quality of life indexes. And in the era of COVID, we have found that healthcare is self-care. A lot of times we're not even able to get to the doctor to get traditional care right now. And so we're really, the impetus is on us to do everything we can to heal ourselves. Yet only 10% of Americans are actually using cannabis and know about what it can do as medicine. So right now, when we talk about healthcare, we also have to talk about pain because as we know in the cannabis industry, the number one reason people come to cannabis is pain. And yet Americans are still struggling with this. 130 people were dying every day from opioid overdoses in the height of things at 2017. Now we're down to about 100 a day. But people are taking things like oxycodone, oxy for short, Percocet, Norco, fentanyl, Vicodin, and many people are not able to get these medicines anymore because the doctors have stopped prescribing them in many parts of the country. And now we have an epidemic of untreated pain impacting quality of life and also our productivity. So here's the thing though, NPR ran a study last month that physicians are still prescribing opioids despite the warnings against them. And if you look at this map, you can see that 1 out of 5 Americans were still prescribed an opiate in 2018, our last recorded data for this, but it's highest in the non-legal states. When we look at California or the Northeast or the Northwest, you see that most people are not getting the opiates like we used to. But in the South, they still are. And that just goes to show that there are no medical cannabis laws there. So why isn't cannabis an option if we know that it can do such miracles in healing and moving this along? Well, the first answer is that cannabis remains a Schedule I drug. So the MORE Act would deschedule cannabis as from the Controlled Substance Act. And normal.org, I want all of you to go to this website today. You can send a letter to your congressional representative, both senators and House, and ask them to pass the MORE Act. In normal, we're talking about there may be a vote on this in September this year. Who knows? It's a crazy election year. We've got less than 3 months before Election Day. Anything can happen. If not this year, then we're hoping for it to pass next year. But so that's this first issue. The second issue is that when we think about medical cannabis and access to this plant, we're looking at dispensaries and patients, but we're really still having a disconnect. So when you think about the medical patients, the providers and the dispensaries, nobody's really connecting the dots and case managing people through here like we do in traditional healthcare. Here's the pharmaceutical, here's how to use it, here's all of the information you need to know to be successful with this. There is distrust in the system. A lot of the people that I work with, when I see a patient, they have no medical cannabis prior experience. They've never used it before. They don't know if they can trust the safety, the quality, the efficacy of the medicines themselves, or the people in the industry. And there's a disorganization. We have 33 medical legal states, but how many people are really having access to protocols and really people that are knowledgeable on how to access the system successfully and navigate all of the qualifying conditions and the process. And it's expensive as well. And then dosing. We know that fine-tuning and clinical care is really needed to maximize the results with this product, at least in the time frame that people want. And I tell people that we're going to help them maximize benefits, minimize harms, and make sure that there's not a backfiring of this therapy. And so these 4 Ds led me to create the 4 Ps. My professionalization, basically the process, the programs that are needed to help people integrate this into healthcare. Next, provider inclusion, right? We need to get the providers and healthcare professionals of every stripe trained with a curriculum to support their development and support the care of their patients. And then mentoring, how do you interact with this industry, with this business? Products, we need vetted CBD medicines. It's not okay when the FDA is spot checking CBD out in the marketplace and finding 20% are actually accurately labeled. So vetted CBD that is proven to be medical grade, bioavailable, lab tested, COAs, etc. And then focused THC ratios to really help dial in and heal conditions for these patients. And then the patients themselves need personalized care. They need these professionals that we've trained to sit down with them one-on-one and give them service and programs and small groups to really, again, maximize the benefits of this plant. what I teach people to do is change the narrative with a clinical focus. One of the first things we need to address is cannabis recreational or medicinal? And in my opinion, and how I train people, is that it's all about the intention. What is your mindset? How are you using these products? What is the dosing? And how do we really include this into a treatment plan alongside everything else that they're doing? There's something called the medical process. And basically what we do is an assessment, then develop a plan, and then you implement that plan and evaluate the plan. So the first thing to do is sit down and talk to the patients about what their goal is to improve. Vincent DiMarzo coined a term called eat, sleep, forget, protect, and relax. And he's an Italian scientist that studies the ECS and the physiology. And it does connect every one of these systems. So you have to explain what the ECS is to the patients, and that they are hardwired for this plant to modulate their conditions to bring them, symptom relief and maybe healing. And also to teach them about how the endocannabinoid deficiency might be causing illness. Then we need to teach them about CBD, THC, the minor cannabinoids, and eventually terpenes, in how they can start to supplement with these plant molecules, how they work, and how to stay safe. Talking about starting points, 5 to 10 milligrams once or twice a day, and then ranges of therapy, depending on what we're treating, maybe 30 to 40 milligrams of a 1-to-1 each day to really ratchet down chronic pain, cancer dosing, what those ranges of therapy might be, and then all about the modes of use and the different routes of administration and how flexible these options are. And then we need to teach people about timing, interactions with other pharmaceuticals, how to space them between the pharmaceuticals and the cannabinoids, and then to set expectations. Because, while this is a very sacred, special plant, it's not a panacea, and it works really in conjunction with other things. Some people in cannabis think that this is all you need, but it really needs to be complementary and adjunct to other treatment modalities that they have going on. And then we have to help them implement it, try it, track it, and adjust it. So all of my patients get a tracking log, 1 to 10, where are we at on levels of pain, anxiety, memory, focus, mood, joy, productivity, energy, sleep, and then blood pressure, because a lot of people are on those pharmaceuticals, and we might be able to help them with their provider wean down from some of those. And, people ask me who this is for. And, I'm like 7 billion of us on this planet have an endocannabinoid system, and cannabinoids can impact each and every one of us in a very special way. Ethan Russo, one of my favorite guys to follow, a neurologist who's focused on cannabis medicine for decades, coins this a medicinal treasure trove. When we think about the different conditions that we can look at with respect to how this medicine can work, think about neurological levels, seizure disorders, leveling out GABA and glutamate, our excitatory and our inhibitory neurotransmitters, along with all of the other neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine. How do we get people to work on anxiety, depression, insomnia, PTSD, forgetting the aversive memories, stimulating focus from ADD, and then neurogenesis, new learning, new nerve cells. It's all possible with this. And then autoimmune conditions, stabilizing the immune response for inflammation. We need the body to right the ship when we have an immune issue and inflammation, or when we're sick, when there's toxins in the body, but we also need the body to turn off and not be excessive in the inflammation. So autoimmune conditions can absolutely benefit from cannabinoids. And then cancer. People ask me all the time, how do we use cannabinoids for cancer? Preclinical data from cell cultures in rodents right now are showing that cannabis can be anti-neogenesis. And what that means, putting that cancer cell under siege and not giving it the nutrients it needs to grow and thrive. And anti-proliferative. Can we see if CBD and THC can turn off the genes that are allowing cancer cells to spread? And then apoptosis. Again, all of our cells have a start date and an end date. So if we can get that cell to turn off and die as it is supposed to in the natural process, we can shrink those tumor cells. So whether or not we can use cannabinoids for treating cancer is still out to be debated, but we know that cannabis can also reduce side effects, especially nausea and vomiting from chemotherapy and radiation treatments, as well as appetite. People that stop eating, they need nutrients to heal, and a lot of people have cachexia and they're not eating, so we can definitely stimulate appetite. Alzheimer's, there are studies showing that THC specifically can reduce beta amyloid plaques. That's still, again, preclinical, so it may slow progression, but I have so many Alzheimer's patients where it's palliative. We're getting them to be less anxious, less agitated, sleeping better, in less pain. A lot of times they can't tell you how much they're hurting. So palliative use in Alzheimer's conditions is wonderful, as well as Parkinson's. Some inhalation or cannabis oils can reduce the tremors, but we can also improve the rigidity and the pain in the spine, especially some of that leaning, improving mood and sleep. Also in MS, also with sleep, with spasticity, THC is a very good muscle relaxant, and so it helps with MS spasticity, interstitial cystitis and bladder issues, pain and depression in these folks as far as what's been studied. And then chronic pain. Cannabis can be very effective to turn down nociceptive signaling. So from the injury to the brain, as well as the anti-inflammatory properties of CBD and THC together. And then it can also boost the other medications. So when we're talking about opioid sparing and being able to reduce those pharmaceuticals week by week, we're able to give people success with that. And then addictions. Many studies are showing that CBD specifically is able to balance and reduce cravings for drugs and alcohol. So when they give CBD to rats, they're not pushing the lever for the morphine. So what is that? And we know in clinical practice that we're able to help people wean off the opioids. Not only does THC and CBD help to reduce the pain, but also the addictions. So I am going to continue to make the clinical case for cannabis. I have so many patients that I've progressed towards wellness. I speak to many groups. This on the right was the National Association of Health Underwriters. Because I spent 20 years in insurance companies, I plan to go back and get them to help us cover these as we start to prove the point and also deschedule this plant. So it takes a village. You know, I can't do this by myself. The reason I've created all of these systems is to train others so that they can see their patients and to be able to help heal them. So I've created the Cannabis Health Coach programs, both for licensed healthcare professionals as well as lay public in my just general coaching programs. But I have comprehensive online training and a very fun platform that's easy to learn, filled with slides and narrative, as well as videos, quizzes, and assignments to help people dial this in and understand it. Then continuing in mastermind groups on a monthly basis with webinars. I have a toolkit that I've put together to shorten the process for clinicians, to give them the assessment forms, the care plan, the patient teaching, understanding formularies with dosing guides for all of the products that are out in a modern dispensary today, giving them a cannabis primer ebook to teach from, as well as one-on-one presentations so they can go out and present this in their neighborhoods. And then to be able to just incorporate this into their practice so they can quickly enjoy what I call the art of medicine. Cannabis medicine is truly science and art, intuition, faith, and everything that we have to heal people. So, you know, it's not a minute too soon to start changing the trajectory of health in this country and globally. So this is my book, Cannabis for Health. It's all about how to become a coach and incorporate healing into your system. So I believe in having an ecosystem of care, interlacing the products with the process, the providers, and the patients. We have direct services on a one-to-one basis with remote visits all over the country, as cannabis health coach licensing programs, dispensary and educator training programs, condition care patient programs that I'm going to be launching by the end of the year, and then our consulting services. So if you want to reach me, my email is Elisabeth@holisticcaring.com with an S, and then the website just holisticcaring.com. So with that, I will wrap up and take some Q&A, and let me get out of full screen so I can go back and stop sharing. Hopefully you guys were all able to catch that. Do I have any questions?
Elisabeth, I'll start it out. That was a fantastic presentation. One thing that I'm always interested in is the other cannabinoids. I agree with you on like taking CBD. I've been doing that for about a year, and I used to be an excessive drinker, and now I don't drink at all. But I'm also interested in following the other non-THC or CBD primary cannabinoids. Do you have any thoughts there?
Well, first of all, I always recommend whole plant, full spectrum cannabinoids. Except for people that are getting drug tested, they need broad spectrum CBD. But you need to incorporate all of the cannabinoids, the acidic, the CBD, CBG, THCV. We have all kinds of different ways that we can incorporate those. The problem is, is supply and demand. Are they accessible to patients? Are they in the dispensaries, and how do you get them? Some of the hemp CBD companies are selling online CBN, THCA, and some of the other things that we have access to. So more and more we're getting the minor cannabinoids, but they all make a difference.
I've been experimenting with a higher dose of CBG, and I've had a lot of digestive positives out of it, problems I've had for years, likely due to a side effect from another medication, have completely gone away taking CBG.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you for being on. That was very informative. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have questions? Comments? Anybody taking care of their patients in the same way and teaching them the whole system like this, as far as the clinical level? Okay.
Dr. Chevalier, do you do the same thing or something similar, or Dr. Shaw?
Yeah, it's very similar, and I really, really enjoyed your presentation. It was a really, really good, very good.
Well, thank you. And then I see a question in the chat. When will Holistic Caring be offering patient training? Well, we're offering cannabis health coach training right now in the program. So you just buy the health coaching package online, and it's sold in a licensing. So licensing is where I have the ability to issue people a license to call themselves a Holistic Caring Cannabis Health Coach, and then get the whole toolkit. We're also going to be selling the course online standalone, which is not the license, half the price and easier to approach. The educator version, which is a little less pharmacology, and the medical cases are just overviews rather than the whole thing. That's coming out at the end of the month. And then the patient programs like Cannabis and Cancer, Cannabis and Chronic Pain, those are going to be released this fall as soon as we can get them done. So there's a lot on my plate, but just sign up for the newsletter at holisticcaring.com, and then you'll be able to see when we release all the other programs.
I think you have a couple more questions on there if you want to take them.
Okay. So I told people about the course. Well, okay, the course itself, as far as what's in the course, the history of cannabis and all of the issues that, how we were using cannabis as a species for thousands of years, as well as how we lost it in prohibition. Then it goes into all of the research and studies of Meshulam and his discoveries. That leads into the study of the different cannabinoids and all of their therapeutic potential. Goes into the products and deep diving on how each mode of use and the pharmacology about those. And then all of the different conditions, the overview slide I talked about, but neurology and from pediatrics to geriatrics. So epilepsy, autism, as well as MS, ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Then we go into cannabis and cancer, cannabis and autoimmune conditions, and then inflammatory, cardiovascular, and metabolic issues, and then all of the mental health conditions. So how does it work for anxiety, and what are the dosing strategies around that, as well as depression, PTSD, insomnia, etc. And then using cannabis as holistic health and how you incorporate functional medicine, because it's not just about cannabis. You don't just take CBD and become well. It's about all of the other disciplines that we need to fold in, and how do we use cannabinoids as a facilitator to get people to move, change their nutrition, focus on connection, meditation, prayer, nature, appreciation of things, and then setting boundaries, speaking up, overcoming limitations, and that sort of thing. And then for the health coaches, how to incorporate this into the business. So that's pretty much everything, as well as regulatory and how to approach and understand your state licensing programs. If anybody wants to apply for licenses, if you have $1 million or $5 million on the sideline to spare for that. So anyway, that is what my coaching program entails. And then I see one more question: as a mental health counselor, can I be a certified cannabis health coach? Yes, absolutely. I spent I was a psych nurse. So my first 10 years in hospital, 8 of them were in locked psychiatry unit. And so that still is my specialization, as well as palliative care. So I love mental health questions. And, you know, I mean, we are mind body, right? So if you can start changing the thoughts that you put into your head and learning how to be present, and cannabinoids can help us do that. It's a shortcut to holistic medicine and health. So, you know, in everything that I talk about, it's how to incorporate that mind, body, spirit. So I welcome everybody. Just go to holisticcaring.com. You can see the entire outline as well as everything that's in the toolkit. And please spread the news so that everybody knows how approachable this is now. Wow, I love those hats.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Right.
Dr. Shaw, I have a quick question. You mentioned some experience in the insurance industry, and I'd be, you know, interested in how you foresee trying to introduce this more into that arena and what their reception might be at the moment and what hurdles and recommendations you think.
Yeah. So first of all, it needs to come off scheduling, right? So once we get it off of Schedule 1, it's going to be a whole lot easier. But you know, I have somebody wanted the link. So I have you know, made it my purpose to get this covered in some way, shape, or form. But you know, when I spoke to the National Association of Health Underwriters last year, I talked about you know, how to do a CBD demonstration project. Let's start with 100 life self-insured group, and you know, people that are not using any cannabinoids, and incorporate 20 milligrams a day of a good full spectrum CBD for that whole population. And then let's start tracking the trajectory of pharmaceutical spend and look at the reductions in medicines for anxiety, sleep, pain, depression, blood pressure, blood sugar, and really start to look at that, as well as the quality of life impacts. So nobody's taken me up on that as of yet, but in the next week, I'm also speaking to the California Association of Health Underwriters Medicare Summit, asking them to start looking at, you know, how to have these discussions with their senior population on putting CBD in, because, you know, seniors can benefit from this more than anybody else, because, you know, they're on meds for pain and sleep and anxiety and nausea, because they're on the pain medicines, and not eating like Megace and Zofran, and then the Seroquel, right? And Risperidol. How many people are taking these because their thought disorder is starting to rise up, right? And so is it dementia, or is it polypharmacy? Is it the Ativan and the Xanax that they're on? So, you know, we need a starting point. And so as long as I can keep them engaged, you know, I'm going to keep making progress, and hopefully using my board positions with both American Cannabis Nurses Association as well as Los Angeles Normal to start improving these conversations with legislators and people that can really start to, you know, really move the needle on this, because it will be covered someday. But then again, we have, you know, is this a medication or a supplement? Is it a pharmaceutical or a botanical? And it's both, right? So then we have to, you know, move the conversation about botanical certification and GMP processing, and all of those sorts of conversations, because you can't introduce this in, you know, the insurance side of this until we can assure people that it is safe and reliable and consistent, you know. And I mean, you know, shopping at a dispensary, what if you find something that works for you for 3 months and then it's gone? So, you know, there's all kinds of issues that we need to really work on collectively as the industry. But, you know, as long as we all engage, we'll get there.